Welcome back, everybody. This is Music Talk with Dave and Mike. I'm Dave,
I'm Mike. Hello.
and this week we are reviewing Chris Stapleton's Starting Over. Now,
Yep.
normally I usually print out the album cover, but this album cover is so terrible, I didn't want to waste the ink on it, right? This is the album cover right here.
It's the White Album reinvented.
Well, I really didn't like this album cover when I first got the CD. The back looks like this. Got the songs on there. On the inside cover, you got "This album belongs to," and then you write your name in there. Kind of silly, right? There's no, there's no, there's no lyrics, which is okay. He can sing good to where you can understand what he's saying, so you can really follow him. It does have every artist on every track, tells you what everybody plays, which is good. I like that because then I can tell what everybody's up to. Got a picture of him and Morgan, his wife, on
Yep.
there.
Morgan.
But I will say one thing. I when I first got it, I couldn't stand the album cover, and honestly, I still don't like the album cover. But I heard him talking about it, and he said they started this album in 2018, and then it took them they were going to release it, but then of course COVID came out.
Yep.
And they decided not to release it. But there was other things, and we'll talk about that too. But it ended up being that it came time to put the album out. Everybody was closed for COVID, so he didn't have an album cover, and he looked down and saw his wife's typewriter and said, "Why don't you just type up title and buy, and then I'll just write the album name on it, and we'll just send that in and use it." Which, I mean, I guess that's creative, I guess, but it's I still hate it. I'm sorry, I hate it. That's my take on the album cover.
Yeah. Well,
I'm very judgmental on album covers, Mike. You know,
it's like what is it like $11.99 to get the CD? Off Amazon.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I would have paid $13 if you'd have put a dragon or something on it. You know what I mean? I mean,
well, it's I don't know. Produced by D. Cole.
Well, before we go there, I was gonna say the album cover could be worse. It could be this, right? It could look like.
Well, at least he had a little bit of hair there. He's got that,
Yeah, every album Phil Collins, you can tell he's getting older because his hairline goes back.
Yep.
So but, anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was done between RCA Studios, Muscle Shoals, at Compound Sound Studio.
Compass, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I can tell you the songs that were at each one too, and we'll go through that as well.
I think Arkansas was definitely out of Muscle Shoals.
No, he only did one song at Muscle Shoals.
Really?
Yeah, and the reason is he what would you say? You said Dave Cobb was the producer, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And Dave Cobb is one of my favorite producers. I mean, he does all the Rival Sons stuff.
Right.
I like what he does, and I think he got a pretty good sound on here. I mean,
he did. It was a front porch sound. It was, to me, I call it that Delta Blues front porch sound, and that's what it definitely comes across that way. I mean, you could see him sitting there with just an acoustic guitar, singing these songs, and you'd be just as entertained as listening to the whole CD.
Well, one thing though, the bass had a great sound.
Yeah.
I mean, every song, that bass sounded good. So he did a really good job on the bass. And that's JT Kerr, who's been with him since day one. But
JT and Derek Mixon on drums.
Which I think he's probably a member of his too, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I've seen Derek Mixon's name on some other recordings. I can't tell you who right off the bat, but that name's been around for a while. And I love his playing. I mean, he's a very simple player.
Mm-hmm. Pocket.
Yeah, plays right in the pocket. Doesn't play any more than's needed to be there. Does not take away from the song. Follows changes. Well, it actually leads you into changes at times. And
I actually think that I think that the four of them, or the three of them actually, Chris, JT and Derek, I think they probably do a lot of writing together
Well,
when it comes to putting them together. You know what I mean?
I know Mike Campbell helped him on the last song. Not the last song, but "Watch You Burn."
Yeah, he did.
Mike Campbell co-wrote with him on that, and that's the one that uses that all voice choir.
Yeah, he also helped him write Arkansas,
Okay, yeah,
and
yeah,
and I believe another one on here. But yeah, but Mike Campbell, for everybody that don't know, was the guitar player for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
yep.
And they also have Ben Montench on here as well, who was the keyboardist for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. So he's
Three on
they call him Ben, I guess. But
playing B3, and then they got, of course, Paul Franklin, which is an icon in Nashville. Has Franklin steel guitars. He's a steel guitar player.
right. Well, that's why I had him written down because I've heard that name a million times. Of course, we know that because Dad's a steel player. So, you know,
Well, I had the privilege of meeting Paul Franklin on several occasions. I walked in on this one night. Was on the road with Rick Stanley. We were in Nashville. A friend of mine, fiddle player Charlie Austin, was in Nashville. He was working with Gene Watson and invited me out to the Grand Ole Opry. And I go to the Grand Ole Opry. I'm backstage. I'm trying to get a cup of coffee, and I feel these arms wrap around me. And I hear this, I ain't seen you in a while. And I turn around and look, and she goes, "Oh, it ain't him." And it was Peter Davis. It's like, I said, "That's all right." Started laughing. But anyway, I met Paul Franklin there. And then later on that evening, we went, and Charlie knew where he was going. We went over to this lounge, and he was set up, and they were doing jazz. And he was playing steel guitar with this whole bunch of these session musicians just playing jazz. And I mean, burning the walls down. I'm like,
yeah.
my God.
Yeah, the guy's a phenomenal steel player. He does really great job on this album too. He's on 2 or 3 songs. So,
Oh, yeah.
but, you know, you gotta. I mean, like I said, the sound. I thought the sound was good, with the exception of the snare drum. I think that would be one thing they could have probably done a better job with. I think.
Yeah. Snare needed to be a little, a little bit more variable sounding. I loved the sound of what they had there, but they needed a couple of more different sounds.
Yeah,
But,
and like I was telling you before, it has that effect thing on it that was kind of like it was okay, but for every time when there's a hole and you actually got and the snare goes to breathe, and then you hear that same effect every time it breathes, and it was like they could have done something different. I think, like
well,
you're
the thing
saying,
is, yeah, the thing is the tuning on the snare is great, and in a live situation, if you'd have been power hitting it, in other words, rim shotting that upbeat every time,
yeah,
it'd have been a great crack.
right,
But they were, I call it timid playing, and I do that a lot when I play a lot of these places around here in Washington,
right,
because people they don't understand the nature of live instruments. So you sit there and you timidly play, and get
kind of
this
hold back a little bit. Yeah,
happening off the snare, which is to me leans again towards that front porch scenario that I was talking about earlier.
mm-hmm.
Here you are, you're not trying to really knock the neighbor's walls down. You just sit on the front porch,
Yeah,
eating some barbecue, having a good time, and just playing some music.
yep. Well,
Yeah.
we'll go through these songs real quick, and I got some notes written down for most of them. So, um, overall, I mean, like I said, it's a great CD. The first song, "Starting Over," that's a good old
Mhm.
great harmony. The bass sound was awesome on it. You had Ben playing the Hammond on there. Morgan singing backups with him. It was a good song. It was a good opener. Then you had "The Devil Always Makes Me Think Twice," which every time I hear this song, I can't help but think of Green River from CCR.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's weird, man, because the first time I heard it, I was like, man, that sounds like uh, John Fogerty playing with him or something. So I went and checked, and it's not John Fogerty on here, but it sure did sound like they were going for that Credence sound, you know?
They were going for it, and they accomplished it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's that Delta sound.
Yeah. It
What I
was
call,
really,
it's that Delta swamp sound,
yeah.
and
And even the way he sang that song, he was kind of phrasing it like a CCR, you know, started out and then you get to that rougher, that you know, more powerful chorus. So that's, I guess that's probably what made me think of it more, because it was more like what Credence would do with a lot of their songs. They would start out nice and mellow, and then they get to that bridge and that chorus, and nothing but power.
right,
So that
right.
I like the song though. It was a really good song.
Yeah.
And then it got, my favorite song on the CD, I think, is Cold. It was the third one.
Yeah.
And this song is the one, and is the only song that they recorded at Muscle Shoals.
Oh, really? I thought they had done a couple more at Muscle Shoals because, I mean, they made it a point to put Muscle Shoals in there, and then what
Well,
is com compad studio sound studio?
Compass, Compass. But what happened was they were going to record the whole CD there, but the power went out in the whole area, not just the studio, but the whole area.
Well, was Compass the studio in Muscle Shoals, or was that
No,
another?
Compass Records used to be the Hillbilly Central where Waylon Jennings recorded.
Oh, okay, okay,
So that's what Compass Records is now. And he did 2 songs in there.
okay.
He recorded 2 songs at Compass Records. He did the Cold, which was at Muscle Shoals, and the rest of them they did at RCA Studio A.
I swear to God, I'm gonna tell you right now, though, I believe they did all the drum tracking at RCA
That's a possibility.
because it all
I don't,
sounded it.
I don't know, man. I think the one on Cold might be. Yeah, it could have. They could have just had a track on there and then mixed it all in RCA.
Yeah,
It's hard to say.
but I mean, it doesn't really make any difference.
Yeah, but
I'm just trying to find the reason why the drums sounded the same through every song. Although we're looking at 3 different locations.
yeah, yeah. I know that's kind of weird because probably the drums is the only thing that sounds the same on the whole album. Everything else does have a little different flavor.
I mean, even the bass drum
Um,
had
but
even the
yeah,
bass drum had the same impact sound, and I loved the
yeah,
resonant sound that they were getting with the bass drum,
yeah. Bass drum sounded good, and like I
especially.
said with the bass too. I mean, they were really nice. Then you come to When I'm With You, and that's a typical old style. That reminded me like of an old Willie or Waylon singing that. I mean, that was traditional country to me. Um,
Yeah, well, yeah, that's that old four on the floor type thing.
yeah,
A little bit slower,
yeah, you had the phaser on the guitar, you know, like they used to
Right
do.
weapon. Yeah.
Yep, yep. So that's what, that one totally reminded me of a Willie or Waylon thing. And then we come up to Arkansas, and this one was Mike Campbell's playing a lot of the guitar in this one, I believe, which is, that it's a faster driving, upbeat, had that driving bass. I really like that song. That's a good song.
There was one song on here that I swear it sounded like a Rickenbacker that he was using for a guitar, and obviously
Probably,
Camel, yeah, it makes sense, I
yeah,
can't put my finger on the song right now, but it was pretty
yeah,
much
probably,
it was a really country sounding song, I mean,
yeah,
in comparison to the rest of the stuff.
yeah. When I'm With You was a really country, and then Arkansas was more of the upbeat '70s country.
Right.
Like you were saying.
Yep.
Then the next song is "Joy of My Life," which was actually written by John Fogerty.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I didn't either. And then because I was sitting here thinking the other song sounded like CCR, and then I got to this one, and I'm like, John Fogerty wrote this one. So
Well,
that was
Fogerty
pretty crazy.
might have been there to have some input with the producer.
That's a
You know,
possibility. That's possible. And then we got to the next one, Hillbilly Blood, which started out like I thought it was going to be like something like a Steve Earle type thing. It could have been on his coal mining album that we did.
right?
Then it turned into a little darker, like he killed somebody and the sheriff was chasing him. So it went from like I don't know, it was pretty weird words, but the song's good. I really like the song. And a thing too I want to say is that I really didn't realize Chris Stapleton played as many instruments as he does.
Huh.
You know, because he's playing mandolin, he's playing the octophone, he's playing a lot of the electric on all these songs. He does pretty much all the solos and everything. So I was kind of surprised that he did that much guitar work.
Huh.
You know, so that was Hillbilly Blood, and then we got the saddest song on the album. It's called Maggie's Song,
Yeah.
and he wrote this one about his dog. And there's a couple funny, not funny stories, but a couple even sadder stories. Not that the song's sad enough, but he said when he went and brought it in there, the guy that plays bass, JT Cure, is a good friend of his, and they've been friends for a long time. And he sat in there and he was going over the song with him, and he was playing it for him, right? So, the bass player's sitting there listening, and they're putting it together, and then he started to realize that the dog died, and he's like, "Man, I didn't know Maggie died. You could have told me that," right? So he's hearing the song as they're putting it together, and he's realizing that he's writing a song about his dog dying, and he's known this dog for 15 years or whatever, right? He's like, "You could have at least told me, you know." And then they said they were riding around after the album was put out, and Chris and his wife were in the car, and they had their kid in the back seat, and
Yeah.
Maggie's song comes on, and they're just up there talking, and he looks back and she's crying because she had never heard it before. So she's hearing Maggie's song in the car talking about the dog that she's known her whole life.
Right.
And she just starts bawling because it was so sad. So if when you listen to this song, prepare, you're gonna cry a little bit. Great song. It's a great song though.
One thing I saw where Chris Stapleton, he was in an interview, and he said, Maggie was part of his life. He said he really wasn't a dog person until he got attached to her.
Yeah.
It's like,
And it's a true story. I mean, the whole they found her in a shopping cart, So and that's usually the best way to get. I mean, that's usually the best dogs, right? The ones you find, the mutts,
best pet altogether. I'm telling you right now, and people don't think pets don't know what's going on. Let me tell you something.
They
You pick
know.
up that's been stranded or abandoned.
Mhm.
Well, they know. They're as long as you show them a little attention, they're your partner for life.
You got that right. Sometimes a little too clingy.
Well, it's all right. I got one that does that,
But
but
I've got a husky, and she is way too clingy. Anyway, all right. So the next song is "Whiskey Sunrise." This is your typical, you know, drink your sorrow away. You done screwed up your relationship. Now you're just going to get drunk, right? But there's a line in it that I really thought was cool. It says, "Every shot I take turns into teardrops," and that is like a super cool line, you know.
yeah.
So every
Well,
shot of liquor I take ends up turning into teardrops.
yeah, it's that same old story. It all,
Yeah,
I mean, hell, years ago, Merle Haggard wrote one, "Swinging Doors."
yeah,
I mean, there you go.
yeah. I know.
Bob let me down.
This is actually the first song I heard off of this album. I heard it when it first came out, and I thought it was pretty good. It's got a really dirty guitar solo. I really liked it. That real dirty reverb, you know, Telecaster or Strat sound. So yeah, that's a really good song too. I like that one. Then we get to the next one, which is "Worry Be Gone," right? And that was written by Guy Clark.
Yeah.
But you've heard of Guy Clark before. So this was done back in '88. I think he did this one, or it might have been 2000 something for this one. But "Worry Be Gone" and the next one, "Old Friends," were both written by Guy Clark.
Right.
And "Old Friends," when I went and looked back at Guy Clark on that album, "Old Friends," I was kind of shocked by all the people that were on that album. I don't know if you're familiar with Guy Clark much, are you?
Yeah.
Right?
He's been a big
Big
icon
name, right?
in the blues category for a long time.
Well, I looked on this album here, and he's got Vince Gill on lead guitar, Roseanne Cash singing, Sam Bush on violin, Rodney Crowell, Emmylou Harris, Dave Pomeroy on bass, and then you got Mike Henderson on guitar. And Mike Henderson actually wrote the "Starting Over" song on here with Chris Stapleton.
You know,
So, I mean, he's got like an all-star lineup on some of these albums, man. It's crazy.
yeah.
So
Like
I'm gonna have to start digging into Guy Clark a little bit more, I think. So,
well, Guy Clark. I mean, you can go so many different directions, man. You can go Rodney Crowell.
well, I
You
know Rodney Crowell, I'm very familiar with. Yeah. All the other people that I named on there were very familiar.
exactly. And the thing with Vince Gill, uh, I mean, I know he's kind of put his career a little bit on hold to do the Eagles thing, but I hope it's very temporary.
Yeah. I thought the same thing when I heard he was playing with the Eagles, you know.
I'm like, you're too good to hammer yourself in that position. But I
Yeah.
mean,
I
it,
actually thought maybe he was just gonna fill in just to finish a tour or something.
yeah, but he's actually considered a member now,
Yeah, I know.
and I don't know. Maybe it works out. I
Yeah.
don't know. I I have a lot a lot of reservations about it though.
So anyway, that was Worry Be Gone and Old Friends. Those were Guy Clark, which I'm gonna go look into a little more because just by the glancing at it, since he wrote those two, I went and found out about him, and I'm gonna have to look more into him because he's a big songwriter back in the day. So, and then we get to Watch You Burn.
Yeah.
This song really is about the Vegas shooting, you know,
Yep.
and then also at the end it talks about, these bombers and people that bomb buildings and stuff. So good song though. I mean, it's got a really good guitar in it. And this one's also got Mike Campbell. Mike Campbell helped write this one and plays on it too. And
Where
then
is
we get to You Should Probably Leave, which is like a pop song to me. It sounded like something that you can almost hear like even Adele sing this one or something. It was kind of
yeah?
different from the rest of the album. I
I
liked it though.
I don't like the fact that Chris has been kind of pigeonholed into the country avenue. I don't think he's country
No,
by any means. I think he's more of a blues or more of a ballad writer.
I mean Southern rock at worst, right?
Well,
You know,
I I'd, I'd rather call it country rock than southern rock because that
yeah.
kind of staples. Anyway, whatever.
Well, with the modern day country, man, it's just not even. I don't even know how you even call it country.
Country, it's all samples and stuff. I mean, with what Chris Stapleton's doing, he's using traditional instruments.
Yeah, yeah,
Looping, there's no sampling.
no,
Here's what you get. And that's what country music was
yeah,
about. Maybe that's the angle they're going at, but I don't agree with it. I just to me I think country is an art that's been lost.
yeah. Well, that's why Well, first that was You Should Probably Leave, and then the last song is called Nashville, Tennessee, basically about a song him leaving somebody. Kind of. The way I kind of figured is like, musicians sometimes when they're on the road, they meet people and they settle like not settle, but they meet people and they just kind of relate to that city for the person they met. You see what I'm saying? Like, oh
Well,
yeah, that was Nashville, or that was, So he's leaving Nashville. I don't know if it's
I had my tryst in the day, and I'd go, well, I guess I'll leave Virginia Beach.
right. Yep, exactly. That's kind of what I was thinking. It's kind of like, yeah, see you Nashville when he's really talking about a person, really. But yeah, it's kind of like a simile or something. I don't know.
I'm
Anyway,
just
the thing, I mean, I like this album a lot. I'm not a country guy, and like you said, Chris Stapleton probably shouldn't be considered a country artist because there's songs on here that could fit just about any genre, right? Which is probably why I like it so much because it's not really country.
adult contemporary. If
Yep.
you really want to put a fair label on it, I mean that's what I would put on it as adult contemporary. It's
Yep.
just like Harris. They don't even consider her music country anymore because it doesn't have the finger pop and the damn sampling in it.
Yeah.
Oh, back in 1970, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, at least he's got steel guitar on here,
yeah,
and there are a few songs on here that are really country songs. but then you have songs on here that are more blues and a little more rocking and stuff. So I think it's a great album. And I'm probably going to rank it higher than you because I mean I'm obviously not a country guy, so I liked it for the fact that it wasn't country.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I'm giving this one a 9 myself. I
okay,
mean,
I was going to go with an 8.
you want
And
8 on it? Okay.
I like the writing, and there are a couple of things I need to add to this whole mix here. Is one thing that I feel like maybe they're trying to do with Chris Stapleton, and I don't like it, and I'm sure he don't like it, which could be the meaning behind the double standard of Nashville, Tennessee, is they were looking for a new Travis Tritt.
Hmm.
And you got Chris Stapleton. He's got kind of that same voice quality.
Hmm.
And also, too, um, I love anything that's on the bluesy side of things.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, you take the Beatles, Old Darling.
Yeah.
I love that feel. I just want to go there. And Chris Stapleton has done, and this is why I call it adult alternative music. Is it's going to appeal to people that are really looking for a little bit more than just the music. They're looking for some lyrics that they can understand.
Right. Well,
And
that's
it,
one thing I would say too is I mean, when he's singing these songs, it's coming from the heart. It's coming from his soul.
yep.
You know, you feel everything he's saying. That's for sure. You know.
And that's
So,
one thing I think people need to be aware of. Look at the time period that this was done in and released. Look at what we're sitting in right now. And they accomplished putting this out.
yeah.
And there's going to be a lot more meaning to this besides the fact of the songs that are on here. It's going to be always dated and always connected to the COVID-19.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
Now, the thing is, too, now you were talking about Paul Franklin. I want to bring up something else right here, and you know what I'm going to say. Um, we lost a big one yesterday, and that was Rusty Young,
yeah.
multi instrumentalist, singer,
Yep.
um, with Heart of the Night, and I mean, on and on and on. And he actually had a little breath of life put into a second career for him as a musician.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'm not going to go into full detail of that. Anybody can look it up and read the stories. Just find Jim Messina and look at his tribute. It will explain a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
If you've heard anything from Poco, you've heard Rusty.
yep. And
So,
the whole thing is the man was a multi instrumentalist,
yep.
heavily talented,
Great songwriter.
loved music.
Yep. So
It,
here's a toast to
it breaks,
Rusty.
you know, it really does. It breaks my heart to
Yep.
see.
So go put on a Poco album this week and toast
Yep.
to Rusty. Well, that's going to wrap it up this week. We're changing up our format a little bit. We're just going to start doing shorter videos. So we're going to end this one, and then we're going to work on other areas as well. But we're always going to keep doing these CD reviews. We're just going to start splitting our formats up to our different topics. So Chris Stapleton, starting over. You'd probably blow by it if you were looking in a bin for it. It's just this crappy album cover, but the album is much better than the cover. I gave it a 9. Mike gave it an 8. So I really like it. I really think anybody would enjoy it. So go
Can't,
out
all,
and get it.
can't judge a book by its cover. You got to open it up and look at it.
Yeah, don't judge this one by the cover because the cover sucks. The album is fantastic. So anyway, that's it. Until next time, everybody be safe out there. We'll see you next time.
Peace out. Listen to the music.